this, we're going to, oh yeah, but we're going to talk about how there's certain things that I can't mention with the certain censorship, like we can't talk about the Voldemort shot, we can't talk about the medical procedure that must not be mentioned, although we are talking about allergies and autoimmune conditions, which an allergy is an abnormal recognition of a foreign protein. So in order to have an allergy, and really to initiate an immune system where your body is attacking healthy tissue, you have to have some type of foreign protein to initiate that. How it gets in the system is one, you can swallow it if you have a damaged gut. The other, it can be stabbed into you. Okay, instead of stabbed, could I say jabbed? Okay, okay, but I can't say the V word. Okay, it's like crazy. So don't say anything about that. Huh?
You can say it for a minute or two.
Well, I can say it for a minute or two, but not when we go live. Because right now, everybody's just watching this. And this one, I gotta say something about it. I mean, this one guy, Schoenfeld, we brought up a couple of years ago, who's brilliant. He calls himself an autoimmunologist. And I mean, just the way he's got a really thick Israeli accent, but he has such a gentle, I mean, relaxed, comedic way to present it. And well, not, you know, not like, haha, boy, they're dying. Ooh. No, but it's like just relaxed and easy and just brilliant. So, and what was surprising is his video from 2017, where he talks about stabs, because I'll say stab instead of jab. Would that be cool? Kind of people know. Okay, 1 minute?
Yep.
Oh, totally cool. Yeah, when he talks about that, it's brilliant, because that is the source of it. And it's not, and I'm going to bring up a couple of articles that, and that's why this talk might put me in the YouTube or Facebook jail. But you know, knowing if I say anything against it, I'm a domestic terrorist, so viva la FEMA.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay, cool. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today. Come on, man, come on, man. Throw the ball, throw the ball. Squirrel. Oh, wait, sorry.
10 seconds. 5 seconds, and I'm going to start the...
Welcome to True Health Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about as much truth as we can on the censored portion, which is this part, and then the uncensored portion, we're going to get into it. The censored portion is on regulatory capture, but we have to bring a little bit in now. For those that are supporting Dr. BVIP, thank God, thank goodness for you. So you will watch it uninterrupted, but if you're on there, okay, if you can't afford it, let me know. I'll find some way to get you on there, but share the data. Share the data, because that's the only way that we can wake up people from their dark sleep. And Extreme Health Academy, we're now on Library, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble. Okay, I mean, we're trying to put it out everywhere, but even some of those sites are being challenged. So now we're going to talk about allergies. Now let's say, just for the heck of it, you have a weird jungle disease. Only penicillin will save your life, but you're allergic to it. How many days does it take to get you over a penicillin allergy? Or how many hours? According to the Mayo Clinic, with this treatment, you receive very small doses. and cracker jack. Now they have peanut-free days. And you're going to find out an abnormal recognition of a foreign protein. Where does that foreign protein come in? We're going to go over that if it's not tempered by digestion. If you get stabbed with it, if you have a leaky gut or something, you're going to get these abnormal proteins floating in the system. And one of the reasons peanuts are so popular is because it's a popular ingredient in some of the medical procedures that we can't talk about. But this is interesting. Recent findings, observational studies, randomized controlled trials, and a meta-analysis suggest that early introduction of allergenic foods is potentially an effective strategy for the rising food allergies. And you're going to see their allergies are rising. Now, if we had a herd of buffalo, okay, and we saw a group of allergies rising in that herd, would we rush at them with histamine, steroids, or look at what the heck they're eating? Okay, you know, it's not rocket scientists, but it's somehow missing our governmental agencies. Okay, so there is a way that these foreign proteins are getting in there, but you slowly desensitize it. Now let's say that you've had, and I've got a lot of patients with this, with bowel disorders, inflammatory bowel disease, and they have, you know, bread will trigger it. Okay, then we know it's gluten sensitivity. Then caseins will trigger it, so no, it's dairy sensitivity. Then all of a sudden they can't eat chicken, or they can't eat meat, or they can't eat certain types of vegetables. And then they start doing this elimination diet, and then eventually they come in and they say, gosh, I can't eat anything, not even bananas, okay, you know, and they're freaking out, okay? And if you, again, find out the avenue, the mechanism of where those foreign proteins are getting into the system when they're not tempered by digestion, then you found the source. And you can slowly reintroduce those, but you got to find the mechanism. Now, the reason our population is so sick, now we've got the most expensive healthcare in the world by far, and we are one of the sickest industrialized countries by far. Okay, we're not going to talk about the death statistics for the current insanity. Okay, but we're looking at this. How? How do we get this way? I recommend this book, The Real Anthony Fauci. Now, I've got it on audio, so I'm listening to it when I drive back and forth to Mexico or back and forth to Goleta. And so I'm 10 hours into it, and I'm on the 3rd chapter. So we're talking incredibly detailed. But you find out the last 50 years, anytime you hear something on TV, anytime your doctor has something, it's a pharmaceutical approach. And this has been going on for 50 years. Why? Because it's the most profitable approach, not profitable for human health. When was the last time you saw on Channel 7 a guy from the Food and Drug Administration saying, hey, organic food is good for you? Oh my gosh, sleep is really good for you. Look at different stressors. No, for the last 2 years, we've had a ticker tape of death, okay? And we've had everybody be careful of this, stay away from your neighbor, stay this and that. So in this, you're gonna find out 50 years of a pharmaceutical approach to health, not environmental, not physiologic. Like, how does your body respond to these medications? Like, if you take high blood pressure medications, so we know that increases your risk of stroke. Okay, we know that it increases or decreases blood supply to the brain, increasing the risk of brain fog and other disorders. So why not looking at the source of high blood pressure? Just taking that one. But our National Institute of Health and the Food and Drug Administration and the CDC and virtually the National Institute of, Allergies and Infectious Diseases. Okay, these things are all captured. These are the regulatory agencies that are currently captured by the industry they're designed to regulate. So imagine if every airplane manufacturer in the world would check the safety of their own plane. So when a plane goes down, they say, look, all the other planes are fine. We've checked into it. You can get on and we're going to be fine. Okay, that doesn't happen, because the Federal Aviation Administration shuts everything down. They do a detailed analysis. They check everything in order to see what the heck the problem was, right? So when we have a rising epidemic in our population, do they stop the insane medical procedures and find out what physiologically is going wrong? No. No investigation into vaccine side effects. Since 1986, they've had a law that gives these people immunity, these convicted criminals, which are the pharmaceutical industry, immunity from any problem that these products can occur. So if I had a toaster company that would kill 100 people a year or 1,000 people a year, would you want to sue the manufacturer of the toaster? Yes. You can't do that, okay? No investigation of medication side effects. And we can look at this, and medications take years to be approved. But nobody really knows what happens when it gets in the public. And the people that are doing the testing are the ones making the product. That's insane. And this has been going on for half a century. So what's the end result? The sickest population on the planet. Censorship of science. You can have two scientists from the exact same field in a courtroom talking about the same subject, coming up to completely different conclusions. Okay, the science is a religion. Science is a constant discussion. And when we talked last week, we talked about the best science is when you have a hypothesis and you try and prove that hypothesis wrong. Okay, like let's say you talk about this that I can't say, okay? Is this safe and effective, okay? Covering your face, rebreathing in your own waste, or is it damaging? So if you are recommending this to be scientific, you have to prove that this isn't safe, that maybe rebreathing in your own waste is bad. So you have to prove the negative. And if you can't prove the negative, then you have a good chance with available knowledge that it may be positive. So when you get these religion guys going, yes, it's safe and effective, it's safe and effective, you got to know that, is it really? CDC and other government agencies actually hold vaccine patents. You're looking at half of the CDC budget is to purchase and distribute vaccines. There's an interplay between the people that work at the FDA, which actually used to be called the chemistry board, and their job was to be a liaison from the chemical industry to you public to make sure that their products were safe. Right. Okay, no investigation of glyphosates, okay, which is destroying the bacteria. No investigation into genetically modified organisms because they're considered safe. There's no real studies on it. And then we do know that the glyphosates increase cancer risk, tons of studies on that. They destroy the soil bacteria. They're a mineral chelator, and they damage your gut flora. Could that be where some of these foreign proteins are coming in? They're not going to look for it. Because in this, the National Institute of Health, if they were really interested in your health, they would do environmental studies to find out what's the best. Again, using the buffalo analogy. If you have half of the kids' population of this herd of buffalo coming up with chronic conditions, would you look at what they're eating, how they're sleeping, or would you just say, man, we got a drug for every ill they got? There's no investigation into the source of non-communicable diseases. These are diseases that's killing 80% of our population, 80%, not less than 1%, 80%, and you do not see that ticker tape going across the bottom. Regulatory capture, no independent investigations. The people that make the product do the investigation, and that product, by the way, is generally liability-free. And U.S. is one of the sickest. Now, this is a review of the book by Dr. Joseph Mercola. Quote, Kennedy describes how Fauci turned the National Institute of Health into an incubator for pharmaceutical products and essentially sold the entire country to the drug industry. This book is incredibly well-referenced record of his historic of decimating human health and exposes Fauci as a self-serving charlatan. It's not just Fauci, okay, but the entire industry, okay, where literally the pharmaceutical industry is one of the biggest contributors to the campaigns. So if they want a law passed, they fund people that they want in office. What does this get us? We're talking over 60% of Americans have a chronic illness or disease. High blood pressure, coronary disease, diabetes, cancer, arthritis, hepatitis, failing kidneys. How many people have failing kidneys? And I lost one of my brother-in-laws to this that was taking blood pressure medications for 10 years. And I loved the guy. I loved him. I still love him. He's not here. Okay? And I said, buddy, please, just deep breathe. You're not going to need it. Do some juicing and blood. What's he say? Lowest dose. Yeah, nobody says, Jesus, I'm taking the highest dose you could possibly get. This would stop the heart of a horse. No, no one's going to say that. Okay, so more than a 30-fold increase in autism. 3 to 4 times higher in boys than girls. When we look at our children population, we're talking autoimmune and allergies. 54% of our chronic children have a chronic illness or disease. 54%. That's more than half. Now, 3 years from now, this estimate is a little old. They said by 2025, it'll cost $1 trillion because most of these kids, they can't work. So what does that mean? That means parents got to watch them. That means the state's got to watch them. And I know you're thinking $1 trillion ain't nothing, baby. All we got to do is just print more money as long as the paper holds out. I know, people are still there thinking, okay, I'll sit home and they'll print money. Okay, now, 20 years ago, Journal of the American Medical Association, they did trends in infectious diseases and mortalities. The age of pestilence and famine, in which the mortality pattern was dominated by high rates of infectious diseases and death, especially in the young, to the current age, our current age, of degenerative and man-made diseases. Infectious diseases are around 4.2%, chronic and neoplastic diseases 81%. So the 81% of people are dying in this country from diseases you can't catch, you have to earn. What do you think this is going to earn you? Less oxygen to your brain. I'm telling you right now. Okay, it ain't protecting you. You've been exposed. Infectious diseases are increasing from 58% from 1980 to 1992. Why? Now, why did infectious diseases go down in the first part of the last century? Refrigeration, food, sanitation, sewer systems. Look at the slums in New York and Chicago on the films from 1900, 1910, 1920. I mean, it was horrible living conditions. And the cleanliness has done the most of it. The war on cancer has done a really good job. They're winning. 300% increase in cancer. 300% increase in cancer rates in 32 years. So the National Institute of Health, that's responsible for a pharmaceutical approach to your health, something that you have high blood pressure, we've got a drug for it. We're not going to change your diet or tell you to drink water or tell you to deep breathe. You've got high cholesterol. By gosh, the doctor's smarter than your own body, even though cholesterol is 50% of your overall weight of the brain, and it's the precursor to almost every hormone you make. The doctor's smarter than your body. He's going to give you a chemical to reduce it. Although that chemical called, a statin drug does increase your risk of diabetes and cancer, but the doctor's smarter than you. See this, the pharmaceutical approach to alter your physiology with a chemical has side effects. Okay, you're right, Doc. It's not side effects, they're effects. Okay. World Health Organization. This is what kills 80% of our population in the world. If we were concerned about the population, would we look at cardiovascular disease? What about environment? What about coal-fired plants increasing the mercury? What about the water systems, okay, that we're now finding glyphosates in everything. We're finding toxins inside of the meat. Cancer, chronic respiratory diseases, diabetes, all of these things. These are not diseases that are genetic. These are diseases you have to earn from horrible lifestyles and horrible medical care. The rise of non-communicable diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, ADD, high blood pressure, cholesterol, cancer, all of these things. These are non-communicable diseases that you have to earn. You can't catch. And this is brought to you by a pharmaceutical approach to health. Think of this, but you've been raised for this. Your parents have been raised with this. It's a pharmaceutical approach to health that is insane because it doesn't have any basis in biology. What are we getting? 1 in 1 in dementia. That means you're guaranteed. Look to the left, look to the right. If you're doing this pharmaceutical approach to health, you are going to get dementia. You're going to get brain fog. This is guaranteed. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to reverse this. Okay, autism, allergies, diabetes. So is it genetics? Knowing that your genetics hasn't changed in like 60,000 years? If we had 300 million caribou And half of them, 150 million, have a chronic illness or disease. I'm talking about American caribou. Okay, would we say it's genetic? Or would we say it's lack of medications? Is there some kind of weird virus or something causing heart disease, cancer, diabetes, or all of these stress-related diseases? No. So the allergy statistics are horrible. I can't find anything newer than 2016 right now, okay? But it has to do with leaky gut. This is where large proteins are getting out of the intestinal tract into the system. This is one of the main causes and contributing factors to this. But so where are they looking for it? I know the National Institute is looking for a pharmaceutical solution to this. I'm talking about where's it coming from? Because if you have half of a herd of caribou with an allergy, asthma, or some type of disease, would you want to give them drugs or find out what they're eating? Oh, there it is, common sense. I'm sorry. It's been missing for so long. Okay, so there's a hygiene hypothesis that Aboriginal cultures have 30,000 different bacteria in their gut, or species of things in there, and modern society, you're eating a packaged food from a processed food from a packaged that doesn't have any fermentation. There's no bugs on it, so you're not building your gut flora. So hygiene hypothesis. Purell everything, cover everything, walk around like you got to be afraid of every, human being to come in contact with. Jabs or medical procedures, toxic food, toxic proteins. I mean, they developed a dwarf wheat in the 70s that has 40 different proteins that human beings have never been familiarized with. And we've been eating wheat products for over 10,000 years with no problem whatsoever. Now, all of a sudden, there's gluten sensitivity. And genetics. Genetics is just ridiculous. So yeah, the hygiene hypothesis. In 1980, you went from 10% of the Western population to 30%, and mainly because of gut flora. But remember, an allergy is an abnormal recognition of a foreign protein. That foreign protein has to get into the system somehow. Okay, it can't get into the system with it being tempered by digestion because your body's going to break this stuff down. This guy won the Nobel Prize in 1913 talking about anaphylaxis, first time the term's been used. We are so constituted that we can never receive other proteins into the blood other than those that have been modified by digestive juices. Every time an alien protein penetrates by a fraction means breaking in, the organism suffers and becomes resistant. Interesting, isn't it? Okay. Now, when we look at this is how you live, okay? The only reason you're alive is because you're continually reproducing your body. Okay, you have to take proteins and break those to the amino acids, otherwise you can't build a healthy body. You got to take fats and break those to fatty acids, otherwise you can't make hormones and your brain doesn't work right, the skin doesn't work right. You have to take carbohydrates and break those down to usable sugars to get the actual energy so you can breathe, get up, move, and poop. Now, 90%, 80 to 90%, in fact, all of this digestion area, and we're talking the stomach, the intestine, the esophagus, this peristaltic wave that moves through. Anytime you eat something, it's masticated here. This is where carbohydrate digestion begins. You swallow it, it gets in the stomach. The stomach is super full of acid, unless you take something to decrease the acid, like our pharmaceutical approach. I know, it's like, oh, you've lost your mind. Okay, so let's just say I'm talking normal human, not a modern drugged up one that's programmed by the TV. So you eat this, stomach acid is there, and that breaks the proteins to amino acids. This is why when someone's in a stressed state, they produce less stomach acid. They can't absorb minerals because you need minerals in order to utilize vitamins, and they can't break the proteins to amino acids. So they don't have the amino acids, so their tissue integrity gets less. Then it goes from the stomach into the duodenum, right next to the liver, and the pancreas is right inside of it. And this is where fats get absorbed. So if you've had your gallbladder removed, which stores and concentrates bile, and then it contracts when it hits in there, that means you're going to have a fat absorption issue. So this means it's going to be a hormone problem or something else. It's like we just had a patient today that has a genetic condition. Okay, it started when she was 60. Okay, and okay, dear, okay, genetic and genetic expression. Did anyone talk to you about this? No, of course not. They're not going to talk to you. Okay, gosh, there's a way. Can you name 3 of your siblings that have the same genes that don't have this condition? Well, yeah. Okay, do you know what I mean? So there's a difference between genetic and genetic expression. It takes physical, chemical, or emotional stress to weaken your immune system to express that adaptive gene. Okay, so you don't have the same genes for over half a century and then all of a sudden it starts to break down. So now think of this. All of that I'm describing, the mastication, the secretion, the movement of that, that's only 10% of the vagus nerve, 10%. 90% of that nerve, well 80 to 90%, depending on what you read, is sensory. That means every time you put something in, it's got to send a signal up to the brain to have your brain adapt to the new environment. This is why human beings can be seen from the Sahara to the Arctic. It's amazing. One of the most adaptive species I've ever seen. Maybe bacteria can do both, but I think humans are pretty up there. And this system, if this doesn't work, because everything that you eat has to be filtered through this tube called the intestinal tract. And it literally goes through the wall, into this venous system, into the liver, which is a massive enzyme factory. Now, the number one leading toxic drug to the liver, I mean, all drugs are toxic to the liver, is Tylenol. So if you damage that massive enzyme factory, you can't get the nutrients in the system. So anywhere along this, chemicals added that alter your physiology damages your system. But if you take genetically modified organisms or antibiotics or bread that's soaked in glyphosates, that's an antibiotic now. Or animal products that still have funguses and molds in there because that's where 70% of our antibiotic use goes. Anything that goes in there can create a leaky gut or a gut that increases its intestinal permeability, allowing undigested proteins to leach out of that intestinal tract into the bloodstream, and that freaks out the body. And we bring this up when we talk about Hashimoto's, inflammatory bowel disease. All of these things involve increased intestinal permeability. Now, we have placebo and nocebo. This is huge. You got to bring this stuff up the last couple of years. Placebo is great. If I say, look, this drug will make your joints and you'll feel better, okay, and you're going to wake up with tons of energy, about 40 to 50% of the people will take that, even though it's, ground up nothing, okay, and they'll have the result. And this is where you can think this. So emotional, your perception of the environment has a big effect on the chemicals your brain's going to secrete. Nocebo is where you have that voodoo doll. I'm going to take care of him. Bam! And the person sees that, then all of a sudden they have a heart attack or die. But it's also what your perception is. Negative thoughts, negative beliefs can cause an illness. So if you were living in a country that actually cared about your health, they would do a study. Now, I'm thinking about, let me say, I don't want to call it lockdown because that sounds like you're in a prison, okay? We'll call it your business is essential and yours isn't. Okay, that sounds so much better. Okay, you own a church, you own a liquor store, gun shop, and Costco. Sorry, buddy, you lose. Will that cause stress with anyone? Yeah, if you happen to have a good belief in God, that would bother me too. Okay, so obviously people aren't going after to help you. This guy, Professor Yehuda Schoenfeld, absolutely brilliant. This is still on YouTube, which blew my mind. We've had about 75, 80 videos that have been deleted. We had to pull them off because they mentioned stuff that this guy's talking about. Now, this guy, when you're talking about autoimmune conditions, he calls himself an autoimmunologist, which he's got the right to. 1,920 papers, edited and authored for more than 40 books, 350 chapters, editorial board of 43 medical journals. This guy is brilliant. I really like him. Now, this was published in 2007 in Neuromolecular Medicine. Talks about how some of the adjuvants, because like if you get a splinter, okay, And I got a bunch of them this week. I was picking fingerling limes, and if you've ever seen a fingerling lime tree, you got more thorns than you do limes, okay? But that one way back there was really good. Ow. I know. Ow, I'll bring you some. Okay, but what happens is if you get stabbed with a sticker, your immune system isn't going to react. So you have to put additives in there, in the shot. And they're called adjuvants. And a lot of these things, they have to stimulate the immune system. Like he found out squalene, aluminum hydroxide, a combination of the two, really stimulate the immune system. But this is weird because Gulf War illness, and this is neurologic disorders, animal models, and very, very toxic. But people that didn't go overseas got it. And so they associate it now, 13, 14 years later, with the jabs that they were getting. And this is out of the Journal of Toxicology, 2017. They used to say the dose makes the poison, but that's not true. What they're finding out that if you have a small bit of this, it gets by your warriors, gets by your immune system, gets by because it's not big enough to mount a defense. So, that's just a little toxin. It's no big deal. I'm waiting for the big toxin. But these toxins build up. So the adjuvant size injected in the suspension corresponds to the lowest dose, not the highest dose. Neurotoxicity, the dose makes the poison. The classic rule of chemistry may seem oversimplistic. We look at this published November 2009, Vaccine and Autoimmunity. Yes, that is actually a journal, so don't strike me down, old truth. Like other drugs, vaccine can cause adverse events, but unlike conventional medicines, which are prescribed to people who are ill, vaccines are administered to healthy individuals, thus increasing concern over adverse events. However, rare reactions such as hypersensitivity, induced infection, autoimmunity do occur and can be severe and even fatal. The latency period, this is important, between vaccination and autoimmunity ranges from days to years. Now, and again, we can't talk about the current things going around. In this portion, we're going to talk about them in the censored portion. Autoimmune phenomena such as arthritis, vasculitis, encephalitis, neuropathy, demyelination are the most frequently adverse events. Causal relationship between influenza and Guillain-Barré was in 1976. Yeah, I mean, one person died from the swine flu in 76, and hundreds of people had negative reactions, so the government stopped it. ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, and the CDC concluded that 3 years later, a causal relationship exists between arthritis and two vaccine combinations, DPT and MMR. Now, if you think about this, shoot first, wait 3 years, find an autoimmune condition, and then you associate it with that medical procedure that happened 3 years earlier. Oh yeah, that's going to happen today. Okay, I'm not going to curse. Again, the European Association for Predictive, Preventative, and Personalized Medicine is associating these jabs with those conditions. Okay, so this is not a rare occurrence. Autism rates, which is something you can say it's an allergic response or brain inflammation or neurologic disorder, but we do know that they consistently have bowel and bladder or bowel and gut disorders. There is toxicity to them, and they do have neurologic symptoms. Massive on the uprise. Now, you're not going to hear about this because the one system that was put in place after the pharmaceutical industry was given immunity only captures between 1% and 10%. And when you hear the authorities saying, yes, anybody can put their information on that, it's not real reliable. And you don't hear one reporter say, well, if that's not reliable, how are you monitoring the events? I know that's bam! You're not getting up. Okay, so this is out of the Journal of the American Medical Association. And they had Harvard go into this study. Now, this is Vera Schreiber. I mean, just brilliant. 100 years of orthodox research and vaccines represent a medical assault on the immune system. A country which has mandates vaccination is not a free country. It's a country of zombies who do what they're told by vested interests, who intimidate them and use them to make money. It's interesting, she said this, I think it was in 2017. So this is how you correct autoimmune disease and allergies. Okay, I'm glad you're sitting down. You have to find the cause. Oh, you want me to expand on it? Okay. Okay, so stress. If you're under a chronic state of stress, you have decreased nerve supply to the gut. So these foreign proteins have to be involved in this system. If you do have an allergy or autoimmune condition, you have to get to a credible doctor that knows how to look for stuff, not one trained by the pharmaceutical industry that just knows chemical control or chemical control of your inflammatory symptoms. This proper nerve supply, because if you're in a stress state, and we have two nervous systems, one keeps us alive under stress, which is where most of the people are, particularly if they're watching the ticker tape of death. We'd use x-rays, heart rate variability, live blood cell analysis, thermography to identify the physical, chemical, and emotional stressors. When we know the adrenal gland controls the thyroid, the hypothalamus controls everything. Where does the hypothalamus get its input? From the spine and central nervous system. So you literally get your body's awareness or how your body's going to adapt through your central nervous system. It's going to know if you're sitting on an iceberg. It's going to know if you're in stress. And where does the sensory input come from? Your entire nervous system. A misinterpretation of the nervous system, like misinterpretation of a protein, can kill you. You can have anaphylactic shock, so this is why some allergies can kill people. This is why you don't want to reintroduce an allergen until you find the source first. You're not going to take another histamine unless you find out where this is coming from, because histamines damage the brain. Regular exercise. This is going to move the lymph. It's going to regenerate the brain. And there's 4 things that your body detoxes with. And a guy today with kidney disease. Yes, it was brought on by blood pressure medications, but you cynic. I know. You have 4 things that detox your system: respiration, perspiration, bowel movements, and urination. If urination isn't there, we got the other 3 we got to work with. So that's going to help. And you could see how we talk about this in our kidney disease. So does he exercise on a regular basis? No. So we're talking respiration and perspiration ain't happening. Movement does the lymph flow, okay? How many bowel movements? 1 a day if he's lucky, okay? So we get him up to 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. Well, that takes some of the stress off. We get him out of the sympathetic dominant state so his gut can heal and his nervous system can start functioning correctly. We get him to sit in a sauna, and the only thing he heard, God bless him, I really like this guy. He's totally cool. He says, okay, I can sit in a sauna. No, do the other stuff too. You gotta heal the body. Okay, so exercise, you got to. Resistance, aerobic. And you move a joint every day, you're gonna keep it. You know, just remember what Mom said? No, you only brush the ones you wanna keep. Okay, you only move the joint you wanna keep, okay? And exercise helps brain, and this is why we do cross-crawl exercise for brain fog. I mean, it's just amazing. Dementia, Alzheimer's, you get them walking barefoot in the grass, but it's incredible. Proper nutrition. This means everybody that is listening to this is going to start eating like their great-grandparents. I know they were whacked. They only ate organic, seasonal, and yeah, that's food. Okay, and the animals were healthy. I mean, if you look at the old TV series, of course it's got to be gone now, Meet the Natives. You have these natives from Papua New Guinea coming up here, and they're seeing them inject the cows and feeding the cows this dry grass. And the natives were saying, aren't you afraid you're going to get those drugs in the meat? And then they looked at canned yams, and the 2 natives are talking, saying, that's dead food. Can we eat it? And the other native says, well, don't insult them. Yeah. I mean, fresh, seasonal, normal. You remember, you're only alive because you're able to break the proteins down to amino acids, fats to fatty acids, carbohydrates to usable sugars. Anything that has a shelf life is get the metabolic or digestive enzymes removed. So you want something that bacteria wants. Depletion of glutathione. You got to get normal, healthy nutrients in there. And this is oxidative stress. Every part of your body. you're tearing down and building up 1 billion cells a day. That's called an oxidative metabolic process. That creates free radicals, so fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, plants, antioxidants, vitamin C, all of those things, they deactivate the free radicals and allow your body to regenerate itself. It's like anything you do that helps your body regenerate is good. Anything you do that causes your body to not regenerate is bad. So it seems too simple, but if you're taking pharmaceutical products to alter your physiology, now you got to remember 100 years from now they'll go, no, people weren't really doing that. Yeah, if you're taking a toxic pharmaceutical product that has a myriad of effects, okay, to alter your stress response to the environment, find a doctor that will find that source and fix the actual problem. Wow. I wouldn't take a medical procedure that has no liability, particularly if there's no long-term studies. You know, you do what you want, but at least let's each have the choice. Healthy saturated fats. Vitamin D, you get it from the sun, would be fantastic. Plant-based minerals, Lugol's iodine, vitamin C. I mean, vitamin C is so good for you, so amazing. But if I was king of the world, I would not force everybody to take it. I would show you the benefits. I would give you certain, choices in fruits and vegetables to take it. I would show you how important it is. But by gosh, it's up to you. Okay, probiotics. The recent studies demonstrate that probiotic bacteria have beneficial effects in these diseases. And we're looking at infections, diarrhea, critical illness, celiac disease, inflammatory bowel diseases, by improving the intestinal barrier. All of those diseases, it's from foreign proteins not tempered by digestion, getting into the system, causing an immune system response or antibody production. So eliminate GMOs, non-organic grains, no commercial dairy, that's crazy, okay? And get lots of the good stuff. Rest is when your body regenerates. You are never, ever, ever, ever gonna see somebody with cancer, dementia, chronic disease, inflammatory disease, get up in the morning and say, God, I feel good. I slept like a dream. No, sleep is when your body regenerates. These people have a tissue production problem. Change your sleep. Sleeping pills? Yeah, you're going to get a chemically induced sleep. Remember, this is a pharmaceutically controlled country with pharmaceutical products. Okay, you take a sleeping pill, what does it say on this box? It says, will cause fatigue, don't drive. Okay, it may cause dementia. Okay, but the side effect is you might get to bed early. Okay, if you're taking any medications that affect the sleep, antacids, I mean, this is like every medication you can get out there. It can negatively affect the sleep, and sleep is when your body regenerates. There's a way, a 3-week exercise, and this is what we give to our patients. There's a way to reset your circadian rhythms. Optimal human function is 6.5 to 7.5 hours. When you reset your circadian rhythms, you're able to regenerate it. So please check out our videos on sleep. Prayer, meditation. How can meditation make a difference? Well, if you're in tune, now this is one, laying on hands of mice transplanted breast cancer. Without further treatment, these mice were injected with something that 100% of them were going to die. And this is between 14 and 17 days. Now, all this guy did was hold the mice for an hour a day in the cage. He didn't pray over them, it didn't breathe on them, didn't fart on them. I mean, they just held them. 100% of them lived. Then they gave them to his assistants. 100% of them lived. Then they gave them to students because they thought maybe there was a positive mental thing. And they said, this is a test for gullibility. Let's see if you can hold this mouse. And they're going, come on. Okay, 100% of them lived. Apparently, we are able to cure memory adenocarcinoma in experimental mice on demand. So just the energy. Now, why isn't the studies going through on this? How can your body reverse this? Allergies. Japan, they have a plant similar to poison ivy. All these people are allergic to it. They put the poison ivy on one arm, and then for a control, they take another leaf and put it on the other arm, okay? 100% of the people in the study developed an allergic response on where they used the leaf that was like poison ivy, 100% didn't get it on the other side. Guess what happened? They switched the leaves. So these people that supposedly had a hypersensitivity to the protein in this plant had to suppress the symptoms on one arm that was exposed and express the symptoms on the other. Wouldn't that be a cool study? So 5 keys to health: nerve supply, exercise, nutrition, rest, and prayer and meditation. To treat the symptoms is crazy. To treat the cause of the symptoms makes more sense. Now we're going to get into the Dr. B VIP stuff. So YouTube, Facebook, we're going to go into greater detail next week on how your immune system works. But we have to stop the live feed now because, well, I mean, this one is from the Center for Disease Control.gov, but I can't really tell you because they've been, oh no, it was just the president that had his Twitter account. But